I have the terrible distinction of having to tell you things that you don't want to hear. That's sort of why I was born, apparently. I gravitate towards information that people go, oh, that's not right. And I go, what's that? Look, it seems true. And they say, but we don't want to talk about that. I say, but it seems true, but we don't want to talk about it. Does anybody have that problem? Is anybody here? Yes. Okay. Bright pink says yes. Red says yes. Married to says yes. You're shaking. Okay. So you get into trouble. You go to the family, go into the family, Carol Brown. You go to the family dinners and they sit down and you say, I think that turkey you're eating has some sort of cancer growing in it. The pesticides, I can still see the accumulation of pesticides in the factory farming that you did. I can see it. And they go, can you shut up? This is a holiday. We're celebrating a person. I said, I don't even know if that person was an historical figure. You know, I'd really like to talk with you about this. And they say, okay, you're out. So I have a clicker, which Clark has. Prince Among Men. He truly is. Incredibly kind. That's a book I wrote. That's the answer. I give a talk and people say, well, what are we supposed to do about it, right? So the answer is first. Can everybody see what that says? Garden, permaculture, relocalize, build it where you are. What is permaculture? Who knows Will, Allen, and growing power? No. Yes. Nice. Excellent. You guys have this resource right in this city. Right in this town, there's a guy who said, we don't have any food growing in some parts of this city, so let's do it. In the middle of winter, we'll grow stuff. We'll have fish swimming around, and we'll take their wonderful poop, and we'll put it... Do you know this? You guys know this? All right. Who doesn't? You do. You don't? Okay, so what's Will Allen do? Anyone? So he took an abandoned whatever, like most American cities are now, abandoned whatevers, right? You know, we go shopping at China Incorporated. I call it Walmart or Best Buy. We just go in high, and then we take their slave goods, and we take them to our slave houses. We'll get into that. And then we eat food that comes from where? Where does our food come from? Philippines, California. There's something happening in California that maybe we should know about. It's not happening in California, it's happening to California. But we'll talk about that too. And he grows stuff, and it's organic, and that's nice, and it has nutrients, because all the soil in the country is more or less dead. I told you, I'm the guy who says stuff you're not supposed to say. People say if you talk about these things, what do they say? Oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Yeah, loony theorist, thank you. You're a conspiracy nutter. No, I'm a conspiracy realist, right? Did you read history? Did they not stab everybody who was in power and replace them with the next person? I mean, isn't that the way it works? I studied Latin. What I learned in Latin, besides sum est sunt, was that Tiberius was an insane emperor, and they killed him and put in Claudius, who was an insane emperor and weak, and they killed him and put in Caligula, who was and Nero, and so on through the Julio-Claudian dynasty until today. We're them, they're us. Our politics are their politics. We're not different. We tell ourselves stories about how we vote for somebody who, has 50,000 backroom deals with everybody who makes the plastics and the poisons that we claim to be protesting against, and then we vote for them and they say, hope and change. I'm different. Hi, I'm different. Everybody goes, oh, finally we elected a something. You know, whoever it is, whatever the Catholic, a Judah office. Oh, we elected a Judah. No, we'll never do that. So the answer is, I'm a conspiracy realist. What's another word for a conspiracy? Yeah, that's it. You go to work and you go, okay, I don't see anything that you do. That's fine. Give me my paycheck. I'm going to go home and watch television and have my brain worked over, beta waves. The question that I've been asking since I was a child was a question that really upsets people, which is, what are we? What is the nature of this thing called people, right? I grew up in a family of doctors and scientists, and they were alcoholics and emotionally absent, therapy immune, just terrible people, right? Just nothing for family jokes. Everybody loves their family. Okay. So I grew up with them, and you go to the holiday meals, and you go, oh, God. And they're yelling at each other, not about good things like who left the toilet seat down, put the toilet, nothing like that. They don't care. It's all about medicine, right? So they're reading their medical journals, and they're essentially hitting each other with the New England Journal of Medicine and JAMA, the Journal of the American. I thought JAMA was a magazine, like JAMA, like was Journal of the American Medical Association. Growing up, I'm like, what's in JAMA this week? Oh, thalidomide babies, great. I'm 4. Like, oh God. So that's childhood. We didn't have Life. We had JAMA. They beat each other up with this stuff, and I realized something. I realized that they were in charge in their own worlds. And my grandfather, who was the paterfamilias, who published very important papers on very important things like crap, like stuff that never made a difference to anybody except the people who were funding him because he published it and he proved that he could get funding to publish, crap. The crap that we live in now, cancer retrovirology, for example. Does a virus cause cancer? Thanks, Grandpa. Thanks, Robert Gallo. They worked on that. No, of course not. We live in a toxic swill petroleum zone. We've got everything pouring into our bodies all the time, and they look for little viruses, right? They don't worry about the DDT and the organochlorines and the glyphosate and the Roundup and the Monsanto. No. Let's chase a virus. That's my family. And they're fighting each other. And fighting each other over who's more correct. Oh, cancer isn't. You still believe that? That was so 6 months ago. That paper was refuted, Somebody didn't agree with it. Therefore, it was discredited. If you don't like it, you can discredit it by going, I don't believe it. Because the Latin word for belief is credere, so I don't credit it. That's all it means. When somebody important because they've... Now, I might say some off-color things, and I just stop myself from saying one, but because they just forgive me. If you're Christian, just forgive me. And nothing for even that? Nothing that Christians do? All right. So what are we as a species? I always wanted to know, because facts change. Like if you're in the important people group, facts change. You can change your mind all the time. And then you can tell the young people and the older people, wherever you are, and the medium people, well, the fact is different now. We thought that hormone stuff caused cancer, but now we know it's your fault. It's your genes. It's not us. So facts get to change. So what are we as a species is a question that I ask all the time. And I have a list up there, and I won't go through it. But I think that the question is important because we have a nature. And if you give a dog peanut butter and chocolate, it will eat the peanut butter and chocolate. It will probably die, right, from eating the peanut butter and chocolate. But we're a kind of animal too, and we have our limits. And if you give us too much something, we'll probably go too far. And I think that we've gone too far in a certain number of ways. But what helped us get there? What's the difference between us and the Romans? What do we have that the Romans didn't have? They had agriculture, right? They farmed, the latifundia, the center, and they had slaves, Slavic people. Slave, Slav, everybody know that? That they got from Europe and brought down to work the land, and then we could buy our freedom over time. I'm taking the side of the slaves, I guess. I don't know why. But they had farming, and farming radically changed the way that human civilization was arrayed. There's a paleo guy here, and he's going, yes. It did. It radically changed the way the human species lived. We were a multi-wife, multi-husband species that enjoyed relatively long life, was much taller than I am, and more or less sat around and had good times and made concoctions out of plants and saw visions and painted bears on walls and had a good life. What's more to do than that? I really couldn't even think of anything that I'd like to be doing more right now than that, except being here in Milwaukee. And then farming came around. Wheat hybridized, got heavier, fell in one place. Right? It's all in one place from now on. Therefore, now when we're all hunting and gathering, we all share stuff because, we have to. But when we farm, wait a second, this is mine. It's going to be cold next winter. I don't know you. And my son has to inherit what I have, so my wife, I have to own her a little bit too. So she's sort of domesticated help now, and the world changed. And we became a different kind of hierarchical tribal species. We're all suffering the millions of years as an animal species that we had all these impulses to be a freer kind of animal, and now we're a different kind of animal. And that's a different argument for a different show, but it's worth thinking about. We beat ourselves up for all of our instincts, like, there's a pretty girl, there's a pretty girl, there's a pretty girl, right? But that's more or less normal. And we lie about this, girls think the same thing. Sometimes about boys, sometimes about whatever they want. That's a chart from a book called Sex at Dawn. I'm just going to recommend it about agriculture and warfare, but it's really a side note to what I'm going to talk about. What was different? It's behind me, between the Romans and us today. What's different? Yeah, why didn't they build 100-story, 1,000-foot buildings? Why? They built tall buildings. They got the slaves to build tall buildings. We have a magical liquid, and nobody knows how important it is. But what in this room didn't get here by virtue of oil? Look around, think about it. What isn't here, including ourselves, by virtue of oil? She said, maybe the air. No, this was lifted by a diesel machine. She said the wood pillars cut and lifted by diesel machines, right? Taken from trees that didn't grow on oil, but I know what you're saying. Carpet synthetic. These were hoisted by large machines. What about the tables, plastic? What about the water? It was pumped by large diesel running machines, electric machines, coal burning machines. We're an oil-based society in every possible way. Is this important? Does this tell us why we have some of the problems that we have? How many barrels of oil do we use a day? How many do we use a year? How many do we have left? Let's talk about that for a second. Let me see if I did this right. I did. You never know. You have to hire help to help with these presentations, and at 4 in the morning I'm tired. 1 barrel of oil. Let's say that we use a barrel of oil a day. How much energy is that worth? Does anybody know this? A barrel of oil, 42 gallons, I think, is worth a certain amount of energy in human terms. Everything's worth heat or energy. Well, they started me 10 minutes late. They did. Okay. 1 barrel of oil is worth what? I'll go 5 minutes over. It's fine. 1 barrel of oil is worth 5.8 million British thermal units. Now, that doesn't mean anything to us. We're not British, right? In England, they'd know exactly what I meant. Over here, it's worth 23,000 hours of human labor. Once more, a barrel of oil, in terms of just heat generated, 23,000 hours of labor. That's 7 years of a guy working at a job. One more time, 1 barrel, 7 years in Roman terms, Greco-Roman, Babylonian, Middle English terms. It's a lot of slaves. Look around. Who built this city? People using diesel machines and what? Heating the limestone with oil to make the concrete. Nothing's free. Our entire society is dependent on this liquid. How many barrels of 7 years to 10 years do we use per day? Number at the top. 20 million. We use 140 million barrel years of work per day to make the society work in the United States, 90 million around the world. What happens? Now, we're going to talk about, in our lives now, we have this hierarchy of needs. You know Maslow's hierarchy of needs? There's a hierarchy of needs. Like to get started in the morning, right, at first, you have to have been able to sleep, which means you had protection from the elements, right? Some water so you weren't dehydrated, some food so you weren't so hungry. So at the bottom, you have these things. Air, water, food, shelter, protection from the elements, snuggle buddies. On the next level, you get into like these. Now we live on the next level, right? Dreaming states. Everything for us is what can I manifest and what can I achieve? Well, we're so lazy. We don't have to grow our own food. We're so spoiled. We don't have to do anything. We get to dream. We can dream. I can put on my iPod and rock out. Nobody can hear me, and nobody thinks I'm insane for dancing around like that with things in my ears. Of course. People used to dance to music out loud that they played in a group, that they had to have the calories from going hunting or gathering or agriculture together. They actually had to participate in life as a group. They had to know each other's names. Multi-husband, multi-wife, I'm going to just say. You have to look. I'm serious. Go look it up. So we use 30 billion barrels of oil per year. That's a lot of oil. I won't go through this whole thing, but clearly that's the oil spectrum, you know, from 5 million barrels of oil a day. What was it during World War II? 15. During World War II, 15 million barrels of oil today. Now 90 around the world. What are we doing? How many wars are we waging at once? How many people are we liberating from the shackles at once? Our entire world is polluted by petroleum. Every pesticide, everything that we do. And when this runs low, and does it run low? Does this last forever? What is fracking? Desperation. It's mud rock. This is the stuff that they used to say, no, we can't bother with that. That's crap. We don't want to use that. We'll use that on a steamship, maybe, because nobody cares. You can pollute as much as you want. It's hard to get. You have to pollute the entire water table. So what I'm telling you as we start today, that I think, I'm not alone in thinking this, and to quote Humphrey Bogart, it's not talking about today, not talking about tomorrow, but soon and for the rest of your life kind of thing. We're looking at a decline scenario. And to put a punctuation mark on that, yes. Okay, year 0, 300 million people. Year 1600, 500 million people. From the 1800s to now, 1800s now, we're close to 1 billion in 1800. We're getting into coal, big cities in Europe. Big cities are 10, maybe 100,000 people. Big city. We've got 7 million people living on Manhattan, 26 miles of granite. We've gotten up to 7 billion, and people are expecting us to be more because, again, multi-husband, multi-wife. Call back to multi-husband? All right, it's early. So we keep breeding, and we keep getting more people, but what do we feed us? We feed us the food that grows on the dead soil in the middle of Monsanto land. How does that food grow? You spray the dead soil that doesn't have any selenium or nutrients or oh my God, what do we spray it with? Who knows this? What's anhydrous ammonium? Oil, we spray it with natural gas that's been essentially fermented. We are eating oil. We've produced 7 billion people on this planet because of this magical substance. And if this runs low, well, it would never... Okay, now here's something that we don't talk about. You all see it? Buildings that just went away very quickly in New York City. Does anyone remember that? All right. Now, it was, of course, done by... We know who did it. Yes, it was the evil, invisible, faceless, international terrorists organization called... Yeah. The steel went to where? Immediately. China and India. They didn't do a forensic examination of was it blown up. That would have made more sense because they went away at free fall. They went downward, outward, downward, outward, downward, outward. There was nothing on top to hammer them down. Gone, 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 gone. The steel went to India and China and was melted down, and we're probably driving around in it today. Oh, that's a different one. That's Mel Gibson. Hold on. Hold on. I got to wing this. In 2000, Dick Cheney, remember the Cheneys? Remember them? Remember the fun that we had for 8 years? Okay, so they went into office, and then Dick Cheney held a meeting in 2001, in the beginning, in January. And it was called an Energy Task Force, and it was secret, like everything else that they did. And they sealed the records, but the Judicial Watch sued them and got 7 pages with all that black ink on it, sort of so you can only read part of it. And guess what was on that 7 pages? Complete oil field maps of Iraq. Oh, face, right? 2001, remember 2001 when Iraq was just another country that we were putting depleted uranium in because they were our good friends, we were helping them, remember that? Right. And then, of course, the bad stuff happened where Colin Powell went and said something before the UN and never was seen from again, and so on and so forth. So we went to Iraq, and Dick Cheney said in the minutes to this meeting that the United States and the world, the U.S. is on a perpetual oil decline. There's nothing that anybody can do about that. Texas was Saudi Arabia to the world until 1972 when it began to decline. The light sweet crude declines inexorably, hideous, without pity, without remorse. It doesn't care. We use 20 million barrels of it a day in America alone. Okay. Now, you can go online, and Lindsay, somebody will say there are 1 trillion barrels of oil underneath the United States, which is true if you took a can opener, You ran it through the East Coast. You took the half-mile of dirt, soil, and people off the United States, and you took the mud rock that was beneath it out, and you put it in a giant boiler and took all the remaining oil that you have, put it under the boiler, took all the clean water in the world, boiled all of it until you got some of the oil out of it, and then we would have some oil from the mud rock. Otherwise, the light sweet crude comes from Gawar, which is in Gawar, Saudi. Yeah, the totalitarian regime that was our best friend in the Middle East, who we don't worry about. It comes from Gawar. And when they decline, and they are declining, they're pumping a lot of seawater into their fields, and they have been for 2 decades to buoy the oil up. When they decline, and the oil prices here get to, well, the market solves everything, right? $16 a gallon, $8 a gallon. We're all going to have to get to know each other much better. Again, multi-husband, multi-wife. I earned that one. Okay. Again, we're going to have to carpool, and we're going to have to figure out where our food grows and all that kind of stuff. I'm not telling you that. I'm telling you this to scare you awake a little. You can go do the research. It's okay. You can be a little bit alarmed by this. We have other problems that Mel Gibson will tell us about in 1 second, because I have 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 3 minutes. The reality, though, is that we live in a society totally divorced from from the human reality of growing food, making culture, knowing each other, having neighborhoods, having civilization. iPod is not civilization. Television is not civilization. It's not a babysitter. It's not a therapist. It's just an area that we all puke our psyches on to get something back and make ourselves feel better because we're so lonely in this terrifically modern world. At least that's my opinion. I'm available for children's parties. Okay. We have other problems, though. And remember the answer? Remember the answer? Permaculture, gardening, clean water systems, local energy production. Live where you are. Multiple husbands and wives. And no jealousy. What's the jealousy thing? Why do we enforce so much jealousy? Just relax. Wasn't there a nuclear meltdown in Japan that was in the news a while ago? I guess the Kardashians bumped it out. We have some other things. It's Mel. We have some other things to worry about, don't we? I won't bother you with this too much, but this is a looming reality. It's blowing thorium over the coast. Dr. Brown can tell us about that. What else do you want to say, Mel? Oh, no! Bacillus thuringiensis, they're not putting terrible, terrible bacteria into our food to poison our food to help us grow more food, are they? You know GMO food? Topic for another time. All right, this one's a little racy. Get your testicles out of my corn. No, Mel, wait. No, it's the soy, the testicles of male rats. I just wanted to say testicles. Who ate GMO soy underwent significant changes, turning from healthy pink to dark blue and purple. So if you know anybody who's not afraid of GMOs, you can say, you should be. All right, the end of this talk goes like this. Right. We all have jobs, right? We all have to participate. Everybody in my family works for them. We all work for them in some fashion. There is a day they are trying to kill us all. They say they're not. We'll talk about more of that in my hour talk. What's the end? The real end, though, is garden, permaculture, relocalize, build it where you are, build community food, water, power sources and solutions where you live. You could build some windmills around here. You've got flowing water. You can generate electricity. You have biomass. You have a number of means. You can even do solar here. It's not free. It's not even really cheap, but it's something because you don't want the shocks. And I'm seeding this idea to you people because you're the community leaders, whether you realize that or not, whether you get up in your own life and you go, oh, I'm just a person, and God, I've got so much to do. You're a community leader because you came here to see me. And that's the end of my... All right, let's introduce in a second Jeff Eston. So thank you very much. Thank you.